This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, Susan. So, seeing that it's 7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. This is for purposes of the recording, Committee of Adjustment meeting 08 of 2023 on Thursday, August 24th, 2023. Welcome, everybody. Um, Before we get into things, I just want to let everybody know uh, the meeting is not being live streamed, but it is being recorded so that residents can watch it afterwards. So I just want to let everybody know everything that we say is being recorded, and that people can see that. So with that, uh, we called the meeting to order. Second item, emergency exits. We're all in our own houses or offices. So if you have an emergency, you know where to go. Item number three, conflicts of pecuniary interest, if any of the committee members. So for those who are attending and not familiar with it, committee members, myself, Bob McRae, members, Dave Carbert, Eric Fournier, and caller number one, who's our friend Jerry Reed. And that, so I'm hoping that Kareem Pollard will join us. Committee members, if you have any conflict of pecuniary interest, you can declare them now or at any point during the meeting. Item number four, approval of the agenda of our meeting. Is there, if there's any discussion, if not, if some committee member can move to approve the agenda, please.
I will so move.
Thank you, Jerry, and seconded.
I'll second the
Dave Carpert, seconded. Any objections to it? And seeing none, the agenda is approved. Item number four, approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was a Committee of Adjustment 07/2023. I've got them here. Committee members who attended that meeting, any corrections, changes, and anything that you don't like about the minutes of that meeting. And that was, as a reminder, Thursday, July 27th. And so if nobody has any corrections or that, if one of the committee members who was at the meeting can move to approve them, please.
I just wanted to say one thing. There was some minor revisions. Eric noted a few minor grammatical errors and such, and I realized that I had the resolution number wrong on one of them. So I have revised those, so I can resend them. Just some minor things.
They were
Okay.
just typos. They're not substantive changes.
Okay. So do we need to approve these as amended?
Approve as
Yes.
I'll move to approve them as amended.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Eric, seconded by Jerry. That's going to have to fall on you because Dave was not.
Yeah, no,
And
yeah, not a
seconded.
problem.
Thank you. Any objections? And seeing none, we have approved those. Item number six, and for those in attendance, thanks for your patience here. We just got some items here we've got to move through. All of our agenda item number six, public question period. For those of you who have not been at a committee of adjustment meeting, all of our meetings are open to the public, to residents. I see we've got one caller here showing up as anonymous. Dave Trotman, welcome. But good order's sake, we always do have a public question period. So if there's anyone who has a question other than relating to the application, you'll have that opportunity later. Are there any questions from the public? And hearing none, we're moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the application for the public meeting here. So I'll just introduce this, and then we'll ask our Director of Planning, David Trotman. So this is application number A is in Apple 08-23. Applicants Peter and Shirley Blaya. If I've mispronounced that, I apologize. Care of Natasha Jonker, JDC Custom Homes. The subject property is 7 Randy Avenue. Official plan designation is Greenbelt Hamlet. Zoning, the town's zoning bylaw is suburban residential, or RU. The purpose, as was advertised here, the minor variance application to permit an apartment addition that is greater than 30% of the primary dwelling as required in section 5 LHII of the Town of Mono zoning bylaw 78-1 as amended. With that, that's the introduction to that. Now I'm going to call on our Director of Planning, David Trotman. David has done a very good planning report on this, but as we always do, we ask David to say a few words to introduce the application. And just for those who have not attended these meetings before, the procedure is always the same. So David will introduce it. Then we will ask the applicant to say anything that they would like to say about it. After that, the committee members will ask questions or make comments. And after that, if there's anybody from the public who has a question or comment, they're allowed to do that. And then the committee will deliberate on it. So David, I don't see you there, but I'm assuming you're still here, David Trotman. And if not, I'm going to get to ad lib. There you are, David. David, you have the floor, please. David Trotman.
Thank you, Chair Bob. Apologies for the delay getting online. I was getting a late break. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, David.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. I hope everyone can hear me. I just said apologies for a few minutes delay. I had a late breaking email from one of our counselors regarding another project. Anyway, that said, this application is not entirely unlike one we dealt with not long ago on Linda Avenue. So it's for an addition to an existing bungalow on Randy Avenue. And it's such that our bylaw has a restriction of 30% of the existing GFA of the existing house. And while I recognize it was put there years ago for laudable reasons, we've come to see over the past few times, I think, that on occasion, maybe it's needs review, but that's for another day in terms of its percentage amount. But again, as I said, it's not unlike the one that we saw on Linda Avenue. The lot area is about the same as well. Just over half an acre, I think we have. And because of the GFA and the addition requested, it's going to exceed the minimum 30% or the maximum 30% under the general provision under section 5(1)(h) sub I, double I. We've had plans put in from the consultant, and I think they were fairly good as explaining the overall scope and size of this addition to be attached to the house. There's going to be a garage replaced with the singular garage as a double garage, and then with living space loft above. It's for family. We have letters received, I think today, if I'm not mistaken, Susan, from the owners saying indeed that that's what it's for. It's for their daughter. It's in my report as well. It's a corner lot. I've looked on, what could be the possible impacts. From what I can see, I'm not seeing any adverse impacts. There was some discussion about whether or not the driveway would need to be widened and whether Public Works would need to review for a permit for not a new driveway, but a modification of the existing. It may not not be necessary, but of course I've left it in as a condition, and I've noted the same in my report that that will be up to Public Works to weigh in on. Dufferin County, if this does get approval tonight, will weigh in on not just the addition from building code review, but also for potable water and septic system. So they're going to replace the septic system. That's a proposal. It will be behind the new addition. I've included one of my usual conditions, though, in the recommendation that gives the town engineer opportunity to weigh in if they so desire. So it says there, if required, may, if required, to review from an engineer perspective, mainly in terms of stormwater and grading. If that comes to pass and is needed, then that can be done. Really, I don't see anything of an adverse nature. My report reflects that. It appears to be desirable and minor, and certainly seems to meet into intended official plan and zoning bylaw. That's really up in a nutshell. We did reach out to the Conservation Authority. It's out of any regulated areas, so they have no comments. I've reiterated what what our Public Works Department might need, and also reflected to what our engineer might want to look at down the road. But that's really about it in a nutshell. I don't really have I see nothing in here that would give me cause for concern, and so my recommendation reflects.
Dave, sorry, you froze. Okay,
Okay.
David, are you done?
Passing it back to you, but I just summarized my recommendation.
David, thank you. Sorry, your feed froze there for a bit. So next in order, thank you, David. Next in order, the applicant. Kim, you've introduced yourself. So either yourself or your consultants, and that if you have anything more to add to what Director of Planning David Trotman just said, this is your opportunity, please.
Kim, if you like, I
introduce yourself.
I'm Cameron Park. I'm with Natasha and JDC. I'm one of the consultants. And Kim, if you like, I can just kind of say a couple things, and once I finish, you can jump in if you like. Thank you, committee, for reviewing our application on behalf of Peter, Shirley, and Kim. As I shared with Susan and David this afternoon, Peter and Shirley wrote up a little letter for the community and committee just for their intention behind the proposal, and Dave made note of it in his letter of recommendation, not letter, but his planning report, sorry. Kim, before we even started working on the project, made it very clear to us that the intent was just for a secondary dwelling for her to live with her parents while they aged in place, and that's kind of what we've done in this proposal. Some individuals in the community have come forward and asked questions while the sign was up on their property, asking if it was for kind of rental or for profit, and the sole purpose of the proposal is just for the family to reside in for this and future generations. I want to thank the committee for their time, and we look forward to a positive resolution.
Very good. Thank you, Cameron. Kim, do you have anything else to add to what Cameron just said, please? Kim, you're muted if you're going to. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else to add. As Cameron stated, it's strictly for me to live here, help out with my parents. They travel a lot. They're snowbirds, so they're not here all winter. I take care of the property for them when they're not here, so I might as well just be here. You know, they're getting older. Eventually, the property's going to become a lot for them to take care of. So I want to be here to help them. And that's the whole purpose of this. It made sense to us at the time, still makes sense to us. I have 3 adult children that live in Orangeville that have expressed a serious intent to purchase the property in the future if it ever came up. So we're kind of hoping it stays in the family for a while, but regardless, the intention right now is for me to live here and help my parents out.
Very good. Thank you, Kim. And now, as I said, now it's an opportunity for committee members to either ask questions and or comments. Dave, Dave Carbert, you were here first, so I'm going to ask you now, please. If you can unmute.
Actually, I don't have any direct questions. It's a pretty straightforward application.
Very good. Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, no,
Eric?
I'm not troubled by it. I would note that the provincial policy statement does encourage any planning authority to permit and facilitate residential intensification. And this is residential intensification, and I think it fits the criteria.
Very good. That's it. Thank you, Eric. Jerry?
Yeah, I certainly support the application. It makes sense all the way around, I think.
No, very good. Thank you, Jerry. My turn. I agree completely with the other three members. And Eric, thank you for bringing up about the provincial policy statement, the PPS. And as we saw in the one that was on Linda, this to me is absolutely perfect for intensification there. The only question I have, I don't see anything in writing to David Trotman or Susan. It was said that some people asked about it when they saw the sign. David and or Susan, did we get any letters from any residents about this?
I'll go first. I don't believe I got anything, Bob. No, from any residents inquiring about this. Susan, I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't receive anything from anyone either, so yeah, I guess they were neighbors who maybe got the notice or saw the sign, and so they asked the residents directly.
No, very, very good. Thank you. Listen, I'm just asking that for good order's sake because I support this application completely. The last thing that I want to ask is, David Trotman, on page 4 of your planning report, you've given a list of recommendations, which I support completely, and I think they're good ones there. The question is, we have agreement from the applicant. Supporting those, that they agree to those recommendations.
Hey, Bob, we
Yes.
have an anonymous.
We got an email acknowledging that they've been.
Is that an outside caller?
Well, I was just going to get to that. I just wanted to thank David. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. But I wanted to ask that question, and then I was going to ask if anybody from the public had anything to say. But Dave Trotman, my question still is, the applicant has agreed to the recommendations? David Trotman?
Yeah, they've agreed in a sense. I know they use the word agree, but they've acknowledged that these are the conditions, and the email I saw back that they had been discussed with the applicant. And just to clarify, these, they're not meant to become negotiable, but I know we've talked about putting them in front of the committee applicant members so they're aware, and that's what we have.
Excellent. Thank you. I have to ask that question. Thank you. And with that, and Dave Carbert, thank you for reminding me. I usually have a list in front of me of all of these things. So now that the committee have asked questions, is there anyone online who have any questions or comments? I do see one anonymous here. So here's your opportunity if you have any questions or comments about this application. And hearing none, then we've done our job with that. Committee members, do I have someone to may move a motion to approve this with the recommendations as laid out in Dave Trotman's planning report?
I will so move.
Moved by
I will
Jerry
second.
Reed,
I'll
seconded
second
by
it.
Eric, seconded by everybody. I heard sorry, Dave. Uh, I heard Eric, so you we'll put seconded by Eric. Uh, any committee members, any objections to that motion to approve? And seeing none, so we consider this application approved. Approved.
That's great news. Thank you, guys.
Hey, you're welcome, Kim. Good luck with everything. I know the planning department, Susan and/or Dave Trotman will be in touch to go through the things that they need to go through, but you can consider your application to be approved. I'm looking at all of the material that we were sent. It looks excellent to me. So good luck with everything.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. With that, our public meeting is over. So Kim and Cameron, thank you. And you don't have to hang around here as we get into, and Anonymous is left too. You don't have to hang around anymore while the committee gets into other business. But thank you for attending.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yes, you too. Take care.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now. Okay, committee. Well done as usual. Thank you, everybody. I'm moving on now to other business. I have a few, but Dave, Jerry, or Eric, do you have any other business? No. Okay, I'm going to make this quick. Where do I start here? Okay, one of the things of what I asked about here and was the applicant's agreement regarding the recommendations. Our last meeting there, I was a little surprised, and Jerry and I have been on this committee for the same length of time, and it's a long length of time. And one of the things that surprised me at our last meeting was the applicant disagreeing or not agreeing to one of the conditions. So subsequent to that meeting, the next day I talked with Dave Trotman and with Susan, and that we'll still work on this. It would be my preference that we had the applicants agreeing to the recommendations in advance of the meeting. Because my opinion, and I'd like to hear from the committee members, my opinion is the last place that we want to be debating or negotiating recommendations is at the committee, the public meeting, and that. So I have asked as best we can. Tonight's was pretty simple and straightforward, but if we can get in writing or agreement from the applicant to the recommendations in advance, I think I'd prefer that. Committee members, what are your thoughts, please?
But how can you do that prior to a meeting if there's going to be discussion or exceptions done by the committee? I think they have to agree in the meeting with whatever the recommendations are. And if they don't, it's not approved. It's not approved. You can't pre-advance a condition without knowing all the conditions, right, Eric?
Well, I don't see any real, I mean, these are our conditions. We may be taking them from David, although this is the first time I've not called David in advance of a meeting, complain about one of his wording, but these are our conditions. We don't require agreement. We can approve a application on the commissions as recommended by David, whether or not there's agreement. I understand the point. I understand that it may be better certainly to have discussed those with the applicant in advance, but their agreement I don't see as any part of our process.
Fair enough. Dave Trotman? Dave Trotman, you look like you're frozen.
Point. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think I need a new router from Rogers, so I'm going to check that out actually. But anyway, I agree with what's said by Eric. In other words, these conditions have sort of been standard over time, and they're based on policy. In the last application, there was exception on the double driveway because they had way, even though neither entrance had been approved previously by Public Works. So that was Public Works' opportunity to weigh in and correct where they can and bring things into policy for a number of reasons, including safety, conformity, and precedent. So the condition was cited in there accordingly. It wasn't, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take one entrance up because okay, well, if you don't, that is a condition, but you're gonna have to take that up with Public Works. So I don't see a problem in terms of putting conditions before an applicant when time permits, or where we have the opportunity to say, here's what we're going to be laying out as staff level recommended conditions in a report. But right, I mean, once it gets to committee can take any of my conditions, say we're going to replace them, Dave, or add to them or modify them, and that's fine. That's how the process works. And what I don't want though is for someone to say, well, you know what, I hear I need a road widening dedicated to the town. Guess what? I'm not giving it for free. I need money for that. Well, the answer is no. It's dedicated, no cost. So I'm not going to get into a what match with an applicant and say, well, let's bash heads over this. That's the way it is, Mr. Applicant. There are the conditions. If you have an issue with that, you take it up in front of committee.
Dave Carver, were you
so it's just an example of one.
I'm confused over that because if the committee approves it, it's approved. If the client doesn't want to adhere to the conditions, then they shouldn't get their building permit or whatever permit, right? But if we change the conditions during the meeting,
they could
pre-approve something that's not completed.
Appeal it, I suppose.
Or the other thing is they just go ahead and do it, and since we have no
well, in a road winding case,
get away with it.
Well, some of what I have is rhetorical in the sense that a septic bed has to have a building code permit anyway. But a road widening is a good example in the sense that someone said, well, I didn't know I had to give up a 1 meter road widening. And of course, that's not throughout the town, but there's cases and places where that would apply. And it's always been conveyed free of cost. Even in previous municipalities I've worked at, it's been conveyed free of cost. So if someone says, well, I'm not going to give it for free, well, I'm not going to spend a day having a headbutting match with them over that. I will say, well, look, Mr. Applicant, that's a standard condition. We're meeting with committee next week or whatever, and you can bring that up in front of committee. And if committee upholds what I have, then it's so be it. If they don't like it, they can appeal. And it goes right back to that double driveway. If allowing double driveways, by the way, as they are today, is going to be a modification to policy, then that's really something that should be brought up in front of council and say, you know what, council, there's cases out there where maybe double driveways are A-okay. Okay, fine, what are they? And then you have continuity of application of policy. Someone just can't raise their hand during the meeting as an applicant and say, well, you know what, my dad bought it this way and I don't think we should have to change it. Because what's good for the goose is then good for the gander. And everyone down that street could say, well, you know what, I'm putting in a double driveway. Now we've got a safety issue. And
so tell me, in a meeting,
so that's why.
If what you say, I understand all that, what if the client says, I don't agree with that, I'm not going to do it? Why would we approve their application?
Wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have, well, You wouldn't have to do that. But if you approved it as is with the conditions in tow, then the applicant could still appeal. So
Okay, that was my question. So their only course, if we approve how it's been put through and they don't agree with it, they have to appeal it or they can't do it. What's stopping them from can't doing it other than permits? Does that make sense?
if they go to appeal, then it's held in abeyance until the OLT deals with it. If I understand your last point, Dave.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand the process. I just want to know where the stop is on the road.
Let me from another point of view, and that this was the issue with the last meeting and the two driveways, and Mono Public Works wanting to correct that. Jerry pointed out, reasonably that there's a lot of farm properties with double driveways and that. But if our committee had approved the application. And Eric pointed out that we weren't exactly doing that, but if we had approved the application, allowing the two driveways to stay, then in fact the Committee of Adjustment is butting heads with the town of Mono Public Works, if I understand it correct. So that was one.
I guess. Yeah. My concern, Bob, is
Jerry?
Yeah, no, my concern is that we are put a lot of red tape in front of applicants and one thing and another, and I don't have any hang up with policy, but I really wonder sometimes if we don't put red tape and bureaucratic power above what really should happen. And I don't think there should be 2 or 3 driveways up and down all the roads. But I also happen to know of a couple of cases that it's been said that the driveways weren't approved, and I happen to know that they were approved with the county, maybe not with the township at the time, or they weren't documented or whatever. But if we get into that, we're not in the business of really ticking off our so-called clients, I don't think, and I'd like to think we're making it as easy as we can on them. Again, we've got to have a policy to deal with it, but I hear at least once a week about these things, and up and down 3 roads, one both sides of me and my own, and so it's so then if we go to make it with somebody else, and we as a group have tried to shut someone down because of that reason, it makes us look a little bit, makes the township look what is happening. And that's my concern. Like the whole thing, and I know when that goes back 50 and 75 years, it's like the road widening allowance. When some of the roads were built, the landowner at that point in time gave the township land to do that. And so that was probably, some of it was given and some of it was never surveyed. And so I also know of a case where it wasn't surveyed and the person didn't have a right of way to get in their driveway. And I know I was driving the bulldozer whenever it was given a right of way in 1965. So those are the things that, and I know David's trying to straighten that out as we go forward. I just don't want to see someone have to pay the price for something that has been misplaced. That's all.
Dave Trotman.
Well, yeah, I would just follow up with this to what Jerry said. All duly noted, but in that case, the applicant should have said, okay, I see this condition as standard policy. I believe that it might have been approved years ago by Dufferin County. Let me talk to Public Works and see if I can't bring that evidence to bear and sort it out. And if that's the case, then let Public Works apply their policy, and if there's an exception to be made because of previously granted approvals, then that's fine. But that was getting into a point where the applicant, I was afraid, was next going to say, by the way, I really didn't want to pay this fee either because of whatever reasons. And, it was going down a slippery slope. So the approach is, I think that, Matt Dunmore and Mike Dunmore and Matt Donor, they just don't pull these ideas out of the thin air. There's usually good reasons for it, even if it's not always recognizable to the applicant. So go talk to Public Works. That's a standard policy condition in there. If you got evidence that shows pre-approval, I am certain Matt Donor will take that into account. But to do it on an ad hoc basis because this particular applicant was more adamant about keeping the second driveway versus someone else who might not, then you lose any sense of continuity of review. So that's all.
I think we've talked about this enough. I wanted to bring it up. I guess my request to staff, to David and Susan, is let's get these recommendations in front of the applicant as soon as we possibly can. And if they want to object to these things and try to negotiate with Public Works and the like, let's see if we can do that in advance of the Committee of Adjustment meetings. I guess that's really my fundamental point with this.
And I would agree with that, Bob.
Yeah, because and now let me so let's move on from that. Or Eric, do you have anything else to say about this?
No, I don't. I agree with that. It's better that there's some discussion and some conversation in advance between the applicant and the town, but it really doesn't affect our process. The committee has to look at these. Now, I certainly look at Dave Trotman's experience. I look at those conditions that we've looked at every meeting. I'm satisfied of the reasonableness of those conditions, and I would be prepared to hear from an applicant who wants to amend one, but that would be a committee decision. In theory, the committee can, at the meeting, amend one of the recommended conditions. And if the case is made and the committee agrees, then we vote for
it. Yep, I agree completely. Yeah, that brings me then to the next point that I had here quickly, because we've met for months now, and we've had great meetings, and I think we're doing a great job here. So, but one of the things, and Eric and I were talking about it. So I wanted to remind committee members, and it relates to what we've just talked about. Committee of Adjustment have actually four decision options. The easy ones, like tonight, we can approve an application. Next one would be to deny it. We haven't had one of those yet. Susan's wondering, Dave Trotman, you're showing up twice here. Anyhow, so we haven't had one yet, but we might get one where we deny the application. The other one, which is fairly straightforward, this committee has not had one, but we did in the previous committee. We deferred a decision because we had asked the application for more information. And Eric, thanks to your knowledge and looking into it, we actually have a fourth, which in my experience we have never used, but we can. And that is to, Eric, correct me if I'm using the wrong term, reserve a decision?
Yeah, the committee can, at the end of the hearing, once we've heard from Dave Trotman, we've read the report, we've heard from the applicant, the committee can reserve its decision. That would likely only happen where you're hearing some people, some of the committee members are saying, they're very concerned about it. Others are very pro. And the committee then could decide, somebody would bring a motion to reserve the decision, and then the committee can meet not in public and just simply talk it out and then render their decision. And that would allow the committee to sort of resolve internal differences.
Okay.
But it is partly allowed in the Planning Act.
Yes, and Eric, thank you. You explained that much better than I could. It is in the Planning Act. And Dave Carbert, early on when this committee was formed, you talked about exactly this, is do we have an opportunity to discuss it
Yep.
away from the applicants and the public and that. And this, again, in my experience, we've never had it, but it is available to us. And Committee of Adjustment and those tapes that Susan got for us, Committee of Adjustment is the only committee of council, I remind members, the only committee of council that can go in camera. So councils can go in camera, and Committee of Adjustment, the only committee of council that can go in camera. And that's just what Eric described. I don't know when we would use that, but it is available to us. And Dave, I think that probably answers your question about what we could do. So I thought it was appropriate. We're what's this, our 8th meeting, to just go through that: approve, deny, defer, or reserve. Defer, which we actually did the previous Committee of Adjustment, the application for the Hampton Inn and Medical Center. We felt that they still needed to give more information. Everybody supported the application, but they hadn't given enough information to satisfy the residents. So we deferred it. We deferred it until the next meeting. I've made some suggestions to the applicant of what they should bring back. They listened to them. They came back. They did a great job. They came back with it, and we approved that application in a heartbeat. So that was a deferral and that. So I wanted to just bring those up. The one last thing, and then we'll let everybody go. And that I've been talking with Eric. Eric brought this up, and I think this is a great opportunity. Eric talked about making decisions, or his mind being made up, and he brought it up tonight. The PPS, Provincial Policy Statement, and tonight's application supported the Provincial Policy Statement of infilling and the like. And we all think about these things, but it's important for us to understand the Provincial Policy Statement. So why I'm saying this is Dave Trotman is working on something for the Planning Committee, where he's because the Provincial Policy Statement has changed, continues to change, and the like. So here's what I want to suggest, or what I've asked Dave Trotman to do, and it will not be in September, but probably Dave Trotman, if you October meeting, where Dave Trotman is working on something to update the Planning Committee on Provincial Policy Statement. And when Eric and I were talking, and he talked about basing decisions on Provincial Policy Statement, I thought this is a spectacular opportunity. And what I'm proposing, and what I've suggested to Dave Trotman and Susan, is that we have a joint meeting of the Committee of Adjustment and the Planning Committee, where Dave Trotman is going to update us all about the Provincial Policy Statement and some of the other bills and the like that have been put into effect recently. So I think this is a good opportunity, and the Committee of Adjustment, as much as the Planning Committee, needs to understand the Provincial Policy Statement, because we use it to make our decisions. Does that makes we don't have a date yet, but does that make sense to everybody?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Jerry?
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. You
Okay.
can't have enough information. I don't know whether we can keep up with it, but because of the changes, but we should know what's going on for sure.
Okay. And Eric?
Yeah, you've already heard my views.
Exactly. I'm just asking you, thank you, but for good order's sake here. So we will, Dave Trotman, we'll keep working on this. Dave, you're smiling. Dave Trotman. So we will work on this, but I wanted to give everybody a heads up. To me, it just made sense that we have a joint meeting. This would be an in-person meeting, at the town hall. Instead of having a separate meeting for the Committee of Adjustment and the Planning Committee, it's the same darn provincial policy statement. So we're working on that, and I'll let you know.
Good. Sounds good.
Okay, that's it. I've talked enough. Susan and Dave Trotman. Last thing, September meeting, Committee of Adjustment. We have things that will be ready for the September meeting. Susan, David Trotman. David Trotman.
We need to get Dave more internet.
You know what? Sorry, Susan.
Hi, David. I think you're frozen. If you can hear this, though, yeah, there are definitely a couple applications that we're working on for the September meeting.
Okay. So tomorrow I will send out an email and confirm. So that's the 4th Thursday. So that will be Thursday, September 28th. I'll send a meeting out tomorrow morning.
That's great.
Okay. Thank you. With that, I've said enough. I'm done. Anybody else? Nothing. Eric?
No, sounds good. No.
All right. Last but not least, thank you to the committee. Another great job done tonight. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's opinions, times, efforts, and that. Thank you, Susan and David Trotman. David Trotman looks like he's really frozen there, eh, Susan? I think he really is frozen. After every one of these meetings, I tell him, get better internet in Wasaga Beach where he's working out of. So
he's got a new boss. He's going to have a new boss. He's maybe really got to be careful, eh?
Good question. There, David, are you, David Trotman? You're back?
I'm here. I'm here, Bob.
Well, either your internet was frozen or you were, so I don't know what to say. Anyhow,
Okay.
I just ending by thanking you and Susan for
Rogers
your
high-speed broadband.
Anyhow, with that, somebody want to move that we close the meeting? Dave Carver?
Sure, I'll move.
Move, thank you. Eric, you want to second that
second.
one? Thank you.
Second.
Again, everybody, thank you for a job well done tonight. Really appreciate it. Everybody keep well.
All right.
And
Good night,
everyone.
Yep. Susan, you can stop this now.